Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I have a treat for you. I say that every time I make one of these episodes. And here, for episode number 21, I'm doing something truly unprecedented. I would like to sample for you my verse translation of Pushkin's greatest work, Pushkin being Russia's greatest poet, and Eugene Onegin being his greatest poem, and also his greatest novel. And how can that be? It's a novel in poetry. It's a novel in verse. And what does Pushkin do? He writes it in sonnets, 14-liners, and for everyone he writes, I reply. And that's why my book, here's my latest book, and it is called Pushkin's Verse Novel, Eugene Onegin, a form-true, dialogic verse translation with lyrical replies and supplements. I could talk more about that. I'll tell you maybe one more thing. It was published in 1833, so the book's been around a while. There are at least 20 English versions, but nothing like this, because nobody ever wrote commentaries to, that is to say, commentary poems to every poem that he just translated from Pushkin. And as a result, what we have is two novels talking to each other. They converse throughout the entire book. Nothing like this was ever done with Pushkin before. Let's begin. Chapter 1. It begins with a little motto, a quote from one of Pushkin's friends named Vyazemsky. And hurries to live and is eager to feel. That sets up the mood well. Let's go. My uncle, man of meek demeanor, when he at last indeed grew ill, required attendance. Nothing keener was felt by that relentless will. His life a moral may afford, but how to keep from being bored all day, all night, with bedside chat, and never take a break from that? What creeping, cheating, and deceit to keep the dying entertained, puff up the pillows, then look pained to bear a medicine not sweet, and think, the deadline's overdue. When will the devil come for you? Reply. Friend Zoya, learning I had made a promise, when at last retired I'd write a sonnet daily, weighed the thought, if sonnets be desired, Onegin why not render? You may entertainment find, and too will have some practice at your craft. At first I, quite unwisely, laughed. Onegin Englishers are not, and never were, in short supply. Another needed. Really, why? I'd too quick-thinkingly forgot my heart could write replies and be a partner in a colloquy. So mused our junior rogue, who, flying on post-horse, left a dusty trail. The most high will of Zeus undying would him as heir of many hail. Friends of Lyudmila and Ruslan, I'd like, before he's farther gone, to introduce you, if I may, to this my hero. Let me say, Onegin, friendly reader, on the shores of the Neva was born, where maybe you as well the morn of life enjoyed, and later shone. At times I've strolled there happily, but northern air's bad for me. Well, you know, this isn't St. Petersburg in Russia. That's on the coast of the Baltic Sea facing Finland. Peter named it this is Peter the Great in the late 17th and early 18th century. Peter the Great named the city after himself. He built it upon a malarial swamp. Oh, we could go on, but I can't do that. Pushkin is more fun. I feel again the fall-like dawn of August that our poets known, where autumn light already shone, The rhyme's not right with Venus' zone. But Grecian gods will play a part. We've seen it at the very start. In Petersburg I, strolling through the cold that chilled the wintry dew, felt glad. Two friends along pray note had come. Each asked with lovely face if she a gloveless hand might place within a pocket of my coat for added warmth. I blessed agreed. It seemed a fair request, indeed. You see, the girls that were walking with me down this delightful Petersburg street in August had not realized that it was going to be so terribly chilly. Very cold August in northerly Petersburg. Now it's roughly 6 decades later. I can't remember their faces anymore, but I can still remember how their hands felt in my coat pocket. Let's go on. Completing an approved career, his father lived on favors won and hosting balls 3 times a year. Discovered soon his fortune gone. But fate Eugene would well protect. Madame his needs did not neglect. Then duly would Monsieur appear. The boy was boisterous yet dear. Monsieur l'Abbé, French, beggared cleric, so's never to torment the child with treatment jocular and mild, made morals cheerful, not choleric, reproaching him but gently. So on summer garden strolls they'd go. Reply. A tutor tale I too may share. My Hebrew teacher came one day. The sitter Beverly was there, my parents being then away. He taught me for an hour, 'twas fun, then left, the pleasant lesson done. A little now Beverly desired to look a little at my Hebrew book. What language is it? I advised by parents that admitting to a stranger that you were a Jew might make you hated. Thus apprised, informed her that I didn't know. She asked, Chinese? Then let it go. Onegin next would come to know the time for youth and mutiny, the time of hope and tender woe. Monsieur, they let him go, you see. It's our Onegin's Freedom Day. He's barbered in the latest way. His hair like London dandies curled, and now he'll see the grander world. In French he's able perfectly, with well-made phrase to speak and write. Mazurka dance on in manner light, and bow with grace. And how might we find any flaw? 'Twas plain to view. A clever man, engaging too. The theme that I'll today select is learning French. The poet so was drilled in this, he'd have us know, that vulgar Russian he'd neglect, and in the tongue the gentry spoke, would frame his every mot or joke. And had Irina, his grandmother, Nanny, faithful aid, not offered legend treasures made, at first in ancient Muscovy, he might no word have sweetly writ of Russian verse. The thought of it! How much the duller life would be, deprived of honey from the lines where mead exceeds delight of wines. I've never drunk mead, but I understand it's a very sweet drink. The Anglo-Saxon thanes, the nobles in the banquet hall, used to drink it in the poem of Beowulf. We all have learned to master this and that in amply varied ways. Well-bred will fit right in, won't miss the prompt reward of social praise. Onegin could his speech endear to stringent critics and austere. Well-read, if a pedantic lad, he happily the talent had, in conversation unconstrained, to touch but glancingly on themes, with look that filled with learning seems. In grave debate be self-contained, and then, surprise, make ladies smile, whom flashing epigrams beguile. With skill, which had the fair beguiled, our wise Onegin prophesies the time when sprightly Oscar Wilde with lightning wit might quips devise. How fallen, how changed our life today! I lately heard a student say, it's kind of like I'm going, whoa! And she's like, wait! And well, it's kind of like, it's sort of like, she's gonna go! And how uncool is that? And oh my God, it's like the scene where if a guy just gotta stay, a chick will go, no way. The day of Latin long is gone. And so, the simple truth to tell, of Latin he enough might con, an epigraph to guess at well, of Juvenal to chat a bit, say vade for so long, that's it, and to recite, not free of blame, 2 lines from Virgil might he claim. He'd no desire to rummage through the piled-up chronologic dust of history's traditions trust, but anecdotes, and not a few, from Romulus until today, he gladly gathered on his way. Upon the Latin classroom walls my teacher sayings gravely placed. Per aspera ad astra, tall's the tree that heaven bravely faced. And then, O quam ridiculi mortalium sunt termini, how risible the endings are of dizzied men in war who spar. O tempora, O mores, times and habits bad, the age of gold thus anciently was bought and sold. In Latin and in Anglo rhymes we sad acknowledge to our cost. We diced for paradise and lost. He cared so little to attain the verser's craft, he couldn't learn in vain, the teacher'd rack his brain, the iamb, trochee, to discern, Theocritus and Homer, myth, who needs it? Better Adam Smith. The lad is an economist. Let one distinction not be missed when telling of the wealth a state may hold and how it grows, between mere gold and basic staple list. His father failed to understand and had to mortgage all his land. Society requires that you perfect yourself in French and then import the lore of England too, and well, the wealth of nations can. A century has gone, and we, the sin of Adam, still may see, Adam Smith, that is. The things the market claims we need were made to buy for leaders' greed. We started 2 immoral wars and cancelled taxes on the rich. Then debts accumulated which the poor must pay. The market roars for oil to glut Plutonian maw, while Plutus' wealth we hold in awe. To speak of all the things Eugene had learned, alas, I haven't time. But what revealed his gift supreme to fly, more high than science climb, was that he had found from early years a fount of joy, and toil, and tears. What occupied his life entire, what languid leisure would require, was knowledge of the passion tender that exiled Ovid ravished sang, for which he felt the martyr's pang, and radiant brave defied surrender, on waste Moldavian plain to roam, away from much loved Roman home. The poet Pushkin told us he was to his hero long a friend. We here find aid, assuredly. Poor Ovid's martyrdom would tend to make the bard remember when he had to leave the helpful men and women who had furthered him in Petersburg. With brimming vim, the Tsar, his self-appointed censor, had put him under house arrest within his father's home. 'Twere best two fathers rule to feel. Oh, tenser than that double exile proved to be, than Ovid's cursed eternity. To be a hypocrite, he early had learned. He'd envy show, or hide a hope, dissuade, with wisdom pearly, convince, then turning surly, snide, or pride portray, or meekly pine, blasé, attentive, by design. How languid then, how calm and still, or speech with eloquence he'd fill, in heartfelt letters, careless he, for love alone he breathed, it seemed. How self-forgetful when he dreamed, his glance how tender, quick might be, abashed and bold. And yet, look here, the gleam of an obedient tear. So Ovid's amatory lore he'd learned, ars amatoria, remedia amoris, more love doctrine, medicamina feminae faciei. Where can more ample mastery of amor be in Roma seen? Yet love not wisdom, not serene, completely should accounted be. Amare means to love, we know, but Latin tutors rarely show a second meaning plain to see. The bitter thing, I tell you true, a Janus love with faces too. In Latin class, of course, I learned amo, amare, I love, to love. But amare also does mean the bitter thing. It's neuter singular of the adjective bitter. I didn't learn that until I was about 40 years old, when I read it in a poem by, guess whom? Lewis Carroll, the author of Alice in Wonderland. How skilled was he at seeming new, with quips the blameless he'd amaze, despair he'd frame in baffling view, or entertain with flattering gaze. For gentle moments he's awake, the prejudice away he'll take of tender years with passion, brains. Unwilled caress if once he gains, a love confession he'll implore. He'll listen for the helpful hint, pursue the love hunt, and with glint of eye will spy an open door. They'd best be left alone, tous deux, for lessons lent, and then adieu. I never cared a bit for these caprices of the whimsied will. Nabokov liked them better. He's the kind that butterflies can fill with frenzy for the avid snatch. A fisherman with happy catch, no more can my excitement wake than amorous who'll trophy take. Rewarding love may sportive be, and love is what we all desire. But greed corrupting meets with ire in fables of the mortal tree. The false of heart will darken dawn, and adamant false Eve bring on. how early he'd make palpitate the hearts of certified coquettes. And when the whim to alienate a rival came, no friend forgets. He'd aim a slander straight away for craftiest of traps to lay. But you, pure husband unsuspicious, good friends remained with him malicious. They loved him all, the spouse quite sly, of apt Faublas the former student, the senior skeptical and prudent, the cuckold-horned his mate nearby. Oh, so well contented with his life, himself, his dinner, and his wife. I cannot say I much approve when Pushkin, smugly condescending, snide ridicule would readers move to feel for husbands who, befriending a cad, are for their kindness made to look like fools, and I'm afraid that taunting does him little credit. So there, and I am glad I said it. But that will do for sermonizing. The poet had a censor in himself, who penalty for sin exacted, rebels well apprising. A rocky guest Don Juan would smite. Bronze horsemen plagued Eugene by night. It often chanced he'd lie in bed, and little notes would come to light. What, invitations? These he read. 3 homes the favoured lad invite, a ball, a children's holiday. Now tell us where he'd wend, I pray. Which one to start with? Much the same. They'll equally attention claim. He, meanwhile, in correct attire, for morning wide-brimmed Bolivar, goes strolling on the boulevard, or to promenade as he'll desire, till his breguet unslumbering for lunch will summon with its ring. They had alarm watches already in 1833. By the way, the Breguet Company is still operating very well and profitably. Here's my reply. I might conclude with this one. We've had a good sample, haven't we? Oh, life unlike to mine, for I, undanaed with flood of gold, was not a social butterfly. In university enrolled, while majoring in Russian lit, I naturally thought it fit a course to take where time I'd spend in reading of Eugene, our friend. My teacher, Walter Vickery, conducted our translation class. In tranquil way the time would pass. A little like a vicar he would gravely comment, calm and so. Jean's life was quick, but mine was slow. Well, that'll be our sample. You know, don't you think it was smarter to do the sample than just to talk about the book? I think you get a sense that you might like to just continue. This is a perfectly arbitrary stopping place and very near the beginning. So if you want more, don't forget this is ready for you to buy at Amazon. Thank you.